Good afternoon and welcome to Waking Wellness. I just got out of a much needed restful sleep. I've been just a little bit sick in my body. It's obviously been detoxifying and and it was much needed, but this episode came from that rest because it was it showed me how important dreams are. And in the dream, it's really wild. It was very vivid and lucid, and there's some aspects of it that I could see how were instantly imposed from day to day or the waking world into the dream realm. And in this particular incident, I was I don't exactly know where, but as as I was going through it, I remember vividly seeing some old friends, and they were all like, I was just to give you a little bit of background. I don't know, weirdly on a scooter headed somewhere. My mom was working somewhere, and I was supposed to go meet her, so I was about to get on the scooter and take this long weaving path and enjoy the scooter ride with this booming boombox. And I looked over to the field, and for a quick second, I saw a glimpse of maybe two old friends. And then as I started putting some of my stuff on the scooter, I saw a few more of the faces, and it was so weird because I got this feeling, and I could feel it right now as strong as I felt it in the dream, and that's something I want to definitely go over. But as I went to pick up something off the bottom of the scooter, a baseball rolled over in front of me, and I picked it up and handed it to the person, and it was one of those close old friends. And I only got to look at her for a second as I passed it to her, and in that same instance, it was like double sided or twofold. Part of me didn't want to look up because part of me felt it was going to be one of them. And then the other part of me wanted to really recognize and also have her recognize me. But I could feel in my body I don't even know what to call it. Like, whether it was like a fear or like a somewhat of like a repulsion, but it felt like maybe from a fear or something. And that made it very apparent to me in the dream, as well as I came out of the dream, how I felt, not just on like the surface, but it allowed me to dive a little down deeper into those feelings. And what a contradictory feeling or feelings to be holding at the same time. And so part of it made me, as she was walking away, like guilty, and then another part of it just made me feel disconnected, as like I wanted to reconnect, but and I feel this in real life. So it's funny how this just reflected how, like, a lot of times I get the feeling that like there's just a point of no return when I feel like people may feel a certain way about me or about something that I did, that like I'm just no longer, I don't want to say viable, but maybe like good enough, or like I won't be forgiven. That's what it is. The feeling of being like, oh, you did what you did. Now it is what it is. And so it had me a little sad, especially because like I love her. She's amazing. We've always had a great relationship. And so as I got on the scooter and I started to drive, I could feel, as I would think about each of them, let's say maybe it was like six of them, as I would think about each of them, I would instantly feel the association and what also almost felt like in the dream, of course, because this is a projection, what I thought they thought of me, which was not allowing me to, I don't want to say move on, but not allowing me to get past that point of feeling unforgiven. And so I would get the feeling that, oh, so and so thinks that I just don't rock with them no more. Or so and so felt like, oh, I haven't heard from you in this long, so why would you reach out now? That's a big one for me because I take a lot of time sometimes due to my makeup to respond, and some like longer than your normal person. And so I sometimes, or a lot of times, I guess, feel like the act is so unforgiving. And once it goes, so if I don't respond in the first 2 days, then it's like, oh, the third day, like, it's going to be difficult to already continue the conversation. But now, like, they may think, like, oh, you don't care enough to respond. You don't, and I take on all these feelings of guilt and shame. And then they just keep manifesting bigger. And that's what that distance actually is. It's a personal guilt, shame, lack of self esteem, self trust, all these things that are so important that I think we know them by name so easily, because we know these words. But do we really know how to identify them within the self? And that's what the dream gave me the ability to see, because if the dream was just like the waking world, then it would have reflected how things are in the current state. But instead of doing that, as I rode the scooter down this path, which is just so wild to even talk about now, and this is why dreaming or dream journaling is so important, because it gives you the ability to see the subconscious in ways that are so clear that we do not see in the waking world, because the normal logical reptilian brain is always working in a point A to point B timeline, like a straight timeline manner, as opposed to working in the subconscious manner, which deals with real time. And we don't talk about this enough and make this distinction enough in our institutions, in school. We don't talk about the subconscious. We don't talk about consciousness. We don't talk about how the inner workings of what we are, personality, all of the soul. We don't talk about those things in school. You may you may brush upon these things if you have a psychology class, but this still doesn't typically intersect with all the things of which I am talking, unless we get into someone like Carl Jung, which is then we can start maybe going into what we know and call paranormal psychology, which is nowhere near. That is the real psychology. That is the real, study of humans and the mind and how and why we are who we are. And so it was wild to realize this, because as I'm going down this path and I was sort of getting closer, I guess, to where my mom was, and maybe we were going to like a house or something. I think she was at a job or something. And so I don't remember, I guess, the full trip, but I remember the leg of passing that field where they were all playing whatever they were playing, like catch or something like that. And once I got to my destination, I was in this house. I don't know why I was at the house, but I do remember all of them showing up. And it was wild because as they're in the house, dreams are weird like this and vastly expansive like this, to where they show you how energy really works when you're able to properly study them. So let's say we're in a decently large room. I'm in my living room right now, so I'm picturing it. And if there are 6 people, then there's ample space for everyone to be. So someone's maybe all the way in the right corner, another person with them, someone in the bottom right corner, someone in the top left, bottom left, someone in the middle, and sort of disperse through there. And so I remember I'm trying to remember who was the very first and whether this person that I'm about to go into was the first. And I don't think so, because the first person I saw, it was it was so warm, and it may have been the person who picked up the baseball who I handed it to in the beginning, and I believe it was. And like I said, me and her have always been good. We've always had that playful, childlike relationship where like it's just always been just a fun, never really a burden or a negative type of thing. Like she see me, she run and jump on me, and it was just always fun like that. And I could feel in my body, and I could feel right now, and this is the importance of dreams, how much I missed her. It just felt good, and she just it's like, Tay, like, and I just hugged her, and I could feel it. And right after her, I did see another one of my friends, and she means so much to me, and she has always been so supportive, and she's like a when I say this is not negative in connotation. She's combative in her nature, in the sense of she doesn't give up. She's like a little fighter, a little warrior, like, and that's always the energy that she's given me. Like, you can do it, you got it, like anything you want, you can do it. And I've always loved her for that, and I love that about her. She's just always like she's the warrior, but I could feel some shame in me for not being as, I guess, maybe following up with or as in tune with her as I've meant to be, or that I should have. And so in the dream, that reflected as me looking at her, and like when we look at each other sometimes, like we do this thing, or she'll look at me, and then where you sort of duck down a little bit and you're still looking at them with this almost weird smirky look. And I felt that, and it penetrated my heart, and I missed it. And we did connect doing that. But then I could also feel the guilt come in. And the moment that the guilt and shame, those are two important. So we're talking about the Manipura and the sacral chakra, or the Swasthihana, and the sun chakra. I always forget the I guess Americanized version or term for the solar plexus. And so I could feel how the guilt and the shame instantly, it's so wild. It blocked off that love and that purity and that flow, because as soon as I felt that, like, damn, like I sort of let you down, I looked a bit away, like my gaze went off of her. And the moment that it went off of her, it went to my other friend who was standing in front of her. And I'm going to talk a little bit about her and that interaction, because she is also, and she has always been my heart. And it was just so deep. And this is what almost was even the impetus too for starting this. Like, all of these points have been, but when I looked at the field and I got the feeling of all of them, and I could feel and understand my guilt and my shame and all those things, I was able to, it pushed me like, oh man, you need to talk about this. And then this interaction specifically told me, you need to talk about this, because I could feel all of it as I feel it right now. And so let me get into it. As soon as I saw her, there was this resonance from eye to soul, and it's always been like this. And she's always told me since we went to high school together, because I've always had this, like, that feeling of guilt and being like, oh my God, it took me a couple of days to reach out to you. And once that would happen, then it would be another day and another day, because instead of focusing on the I need to reach out, this is my girl, like I know I need she needs me just as much as I need her. That's what I should have been focused on. But instead, I allowed the lesser version to come in, and the shame and thinking like, oh, she's not going to love me as much, and I've let her down, and how could she forgive me? Because she's always been there for me. All of those feelings overwhelmed me. And we just walked up to each other. And I've always loved this about her. She allowed me, just by being who she is, to release that guilt, that shame, that anxiety, that feeling of not being good enough. All of these, I can only call them fake, even though they're real. Trust they're real as much as we allow them to be. All of these fake projections and lesser thoughts of who I would perceive, or who I thought that she'd perceive me to be, or my actions to be, as if they were me. But none of that was present. I looked at her and she looked at me and she just smiled. One of the most beautiful smiles I've ever seen, most embracing smiles I've ever seen, most encompassing, most expansive, loving, unconditional, loving smiles and warm that I've ever seen. In the walk, although it may have only been 3 or 4 steps, it felt like that elusive hallway that just extends for forever. And in those 3 steps, it was really like being reunited with the part of myself that I've needed, that I've missed, that I forgot I needed, that I hold dearest to me, and just is really sacred to me. And to realize that, to feel that, to be embraced and overwhelmed by that, how could I be consumed by grief or shame or guilt for the time that is past and missed that I caused? I couldn't. And that was because of her. And when we finally hugged, it was just so like weird in the best way, because it was uncanny. And my teacher, and I mention him a lot because he's helped me grow to a level that I at one point didn't even conceive was possible, Dr. Green, who introduced me to existentialism and so many other things. It was wild because I could feel the uncanny. He told us that uncanny meant when something feels almost like out of this world, but is of home, is like of a homely essence. So that's the weird that it felt like. It felt like a weird that was familiar. And that's a whole conversation in itself. But when I hugged her, this didn't feel like a dream. When I hugged her, I could feel my soul remembering, resonating, honoring. I could feel her. And just like when we used to be at school and sitting at the lockers in the morning, just chatting, eating our donuts that one of us bought each other, little ass blueberry, frosted blueberry donuts from Dunkin' Donuts. I could feel that embrace and really that love that said, it's okay. And sometimes that is the most important thing you're ever going to hear is it's okay, or it's going to be okay. I was just watching The Midnight Club, and there's a character on there, Anya. It's about a house full of kids who are sick, and they sort of go there as pretty much like the passing house. That's going to be the place where they end up passing. And it was wild because I could feel how there's a character, Anya. Sorry, I'm getting a phone call as this happening, so it threw me off. There's a character on there, Anya, who is in a wheelchair, and she's like the most mad but toughest character. And she called her old friend. This is wild. This is what really brought it up now, looking at this. She calls her old best friend, and like he pretty much asked her, like, what is it that you want? Like, she was very, I don't want to say bad to him, but like when you're going through pain and you just push someone off, and she was like that, and she was nasty. And they even said a lot that, oh, she could be a bitch sometimes, but he's like, pretty much, what do you want, you know? And she says, like, I just want to let you know that I'm doing better. Like, and at the end of it, he's like, what do you want from me? And she says, just want you to let me know it's going to be okay. And he says, what? And she's like, everything. And when we see things like that, we hear things like that, you know, it feels like just another thing to watch, you know, just like I said with the words, like it's just another thing to hear. And we forget the essence that really is within. And that's what she did when she hugged me. And I don't care if it was a dream. I could feel in my soul that like the love is still there, even if I have not been there as much for her that I should be. I haven't reached out in so long. But just in soul, I really do believe that dreams are just as real as the waking world, if not more. And she reminded me it's all okay. And so I am going to reach out as scared and because I've already been thinking it, as scared and whatever shame, doubt, guilt, any of those negative things that can still pop up and rear their ugly head. I not only feel, but I know that she deserves it. If there's anybody that was in my life, that is in my life, she deserves it because she's one of the most beautiful, like, one of just the most empowered, like, and I thought about this because I've been having the dialogue in my head about how to go about it. And I was thinking about things I would say to her. And this was an important one, that she is one of, and when I say women, really I should say people, but women who, she scares me a little bit. and and why would that be? It's because she is so strong. She reminds me of empowerment. She reminds me of grace. She reminds me of, she sort of reminds me of the deity that or the deities that I honor and that I love. Isis, Maat, Athena. She reminds me of that deity and that guardian for me, of how powerful she is, the beauty as a soul that she embodies. And so that's why sometimes my soul would cower, because she calls me on my BS. she doesn't let any of the excuses she would she would for sure honor it, and it would be just like the dream, even if she did, and it would be warranted, gave me a little bit of shit, like, yeah, it has been too long, yeah, da 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 da. But with all that, it would have a playful tone, even if it was serious, and she would let it be known, like, as she always has. What, maybe since like 2007, 2008, and we're in 23. So about 14, 15 years ago, she said the same thing. Like, that's all BS. Like, that's not what we're focused on. And so, it's just so much so much love and thanks that I want to give, and that I need to give, and that I am putting out there to her with doing this, because that's who she is to me. That's what she is. That's the soul that I see her as. And watching the Midnight Club showed me how important it is to have those friends that you do see as family, and that you can see as angels, and the ones that God really did put here to help us on our path. And that's where the guilt and the shame comes from, because I have so many close and best friends that I don't associate with anymore for one reason or another, but really comes down to like who I am and some of the, the mental like health things that I deal with, and like just personality aspects that I don't want to say has been hard to keep in check, but it's a full-time job and another to deal with. And sometimes with that, it makes me feel like I can't put that on them, or, like I don't want to put that on them because it's way too heavy for me. And so because of that, it's caused a distance between me and so many of the people I love, and unfortunately with me and her as well. But as we started to hug, I could feel my whole body lighten, like, and it was funny because like when she embraced me, it for real, it was like an angel with just raining down that golden light and allowing me to clear out all of what I already mentioned before. If it was just, it felt heavy and like darkness was within, and just like, oh, this thing or stuff that I will not be able to cope with. It's not like she took it on, but it's like she released it. And what else is an angel but a light bearer and a bringer and an emissary of love? One who teaches you how to be better through that love, through that example. And as I was hugging her, it was funny because, and again, this is just like her. And again, this is why dreams are important, because they show you aspects of what really is that we don't always make sense right away in the waking world. I was hugging her, and it was like as if like she or I had a backpack on or something, because I was hugging her a bit high. Like, and she even asked, she was like, why you hugging me like that? And I just started to laugh, and I said, wait, you know what? You're right. And then like I had this internal vision that neither of us had on the backpack or whatever it was that had me doing that awkward or weird motion or hug. And from there, like my arms dropped a bit, and more than hugging, almost what seemed like at the top of her shoulders, more around the midsection, to where we both really hands on the back, like hands on each other's back, but like you could feel, like I could see her hands on my back as if both of our bodies were illuminated. I could feel that embrace. And it was wild because it was like we both became one light. And like I could feel her essence, and she embraced mine completely, knew it, accepted it, and it felt like an eternity that like I needed. I never wanted to leave. And it was just so beautiful because I almost haven't felt anything as beautiful and I don't know how long. And so when we did get done and we let go, all of everything I mentioned that I was holding on to and that I saw that, was going on, it was internalized. And it was spoken to each other without saying anything. And then she walked away. And I could feel again, like when I said on the field, when I thought about someone, my mind would shift to them. And the moment that it shifted to them, it was instantaneously or simultaneously invoked with the thought or the projection that I believe they thought of me. And I got ready to, I think, go on one to the friend that I mentioned before, that the spunky fighter and warrior. And I think, and I got ready to also look at my guy friends, which I also held deep regret and shame about. But as far as I can remember right now, I believe I woke up after that. I think there was a little bit more of a understanding as I looked around of, okay, you understand. And it was because of her. And that let me know, like, this is the drop off point or the wake up point, because I incorporated a lesson. I incorporated a vibration that was needed to go on to the next step. And so that I would be able to do this with all of the others. And I don't think at the moment that I would have been able to receive this from any of the others. Not like I was meant to receive it from her. And so it's just, I can still feel it. It feels like eternity. And I just thank her, even though, it's a dream. But I thank her for embodying who and what she is, because that allowed me to do some internal healing that I had not been able to do, because before I was not able to recognize, I was not able to see. To be honest, I believe that it's been repressed because I didn't want to see and feel it, because of, as you can even hear me talking, it was something that I didn't want to feel again. And why would I even say again when I was already feeling it, thinking that I wasn't trying to repress it and using all this energy to block it. But the guilt and the shame and the doubt and all those things are still very present. It was like I put them behind a door. The room was sealed by the door, which is really energy. But, when you try not to look at something or think about something, it makes you think about it more. And so, how much energy was used trying to block this experience, this pain, when all I needed to do was look at it, drop that door, that energy blockage, and let all of that pain, let all of the guilt, shame, doubt, all those things pour out, so that I could actually be embraced and embrace what was really behind the door, which was love, waiting to embrace me, anticipating me to show up, hoping that I would fulfill and actualize and realize the dream, which was to be connected to that which I love, not running from and placing all these projections on them, what I believe they were projecting onto me. And so that dream was just so powerful, because here I am making this message. Here I am embodying this new vibration. Here I am releasing all those things that I did not know how to release before that moment. Here I am now thinking and working on how to act as if, so I can reach out to her, so I can reach out to the others, even if there's a, no, I'm okay, I'm not trying to be friends with you anymore message that I receive back. But there is a, I love you. I'm sorry, I did you wrong. I left you, from my end. So they understand that I'm taking responsibility for my part in our relationship. I understand that I was not my best self. And I hope that they can forgive me, as I have had to learn how to forgive myself, and even forgive them for things that I didn't even know I needed to forgive them for, and hopefully allow them to forgive themselves for things that they shouldn't be holding onto, whether it be my doing or anyone else's. And so here I am because of that dream. And that is the power of a dream, to make change, to become different, to put that out into the world so that someone else can learn how to heal. Someone else can become a better version of themselves by releasing the trauma that they've held on to, not repeating the cycle of how do I run from the trauma, so I'm grateful. I tried to stay away from names as much as possible, but I will, once I reach out to those individuals, let them know that they were the impetus for this episode. And I think I do need to say the name of the one that I was letting you guys know gave me that powerful release ultimately. And so I do thank you, Steph, for being the beautiful, empowered, again, I already let you guys know that she does remind me of Isis, Athena, Mott. That almost like Wonder Woman with who she is, because she's always been a light. She's always been, no matter what she was going through, she's one of those people that always had a smile on, even when she was going through stuff and I was there and she'd be crying, like there was still a power and there was still a light that was present that was not, you know, you don't see that kind of light in many people. And she always walks in that light. She always gives that light off to others. She's never nasty with people, no matter what she's going through. She never, like, she's just a beautiful being and an amazing soul and spirit. And it is and always has been a blessing and an honor to be her friend and to be there for the other. And again, to her, I do apologize for not being as present as I should have because of whatever it is, that I've been going through. So thank you. And thank all of you for listening. I hope this helps you guys open up to yourself, open up to your loved ones, open up to those who are not in your life as they once were, but are still making that lasting impact on your life. And I hope this allows you to reach back out to them. Even if you think that they're going to hit you with a fuck off. I got a friend who I reached out to not long ago, and she is talk about combative energies. And she is definitely one, and we have a funny relationship, but she is for sure a "no, you can fuck off" type. And it's funny, when I reached out to her, I even let her know, like, I miss you. I hope you've been doing well. And if you want to let me know, like if you're feeling like F dude, then that's cool. And she actually sent that back, like, yeah, F dude. Like, and all I could do, honestly, as much as I miss her and love her, like, I could only laugh. I laughed and said, man, I know who you are. I know, how I was or what I've done. And that sounds about right. And that's what your normal human being would say and do. So when she said that, I didn't take any offense. I took it for what it was and what it is. And that's why I even said that I understand that that's what she said. And we did talk a little bit after that, but she sort of gave me, a F off later again. And again, I understand it. Like, we all are who we are. We all have our ways of dealing with life and how it is when we're hurt and experience pain. So who would I be to tell her or to feel that she's not responding properly to how she feels towards me or towards pain that she may have felt that I caused her or whatever that is, especially when people are going through things and they feel that you're the one that they be able to turn to, and then they feel that you are not gone, or that you are not present. And so I say that just to say, it doesn't matter. You still need to reach out, because if they've made that impact, that lasting impact on your life, then they deserve that, don't you think? Even if it's just a thank you for the positive impact you've made on my life. I hope you're doing well. I love you. Whether that's a text, whether that's a call, whether that's a letter. I've thought about doing that as well, making a letter, and also doing a book from that, 365 days of forgiveness, and just reaching out to someone every day, writing a letter every day to people who have made an impact on your life, and letting them know how they've done that, and that is such a powerful exercise, because it shows people their influence. It honors people. It reminds them of who they are and the power that they carry. And within that, it really isn't about asking them to forgive you. It's about letting them know that you love them for who they are. And it really stops there. But that ripple that may allow them to forgive you, that ripple may allow you to come back together and be even better than you were before. That ripple may allow you to to go into the world as a new force and make changes that only you two could do together. And so I really hope that through listening to this inspires you to clean up a little bit of that mess that we have made, on our way through life. And everybody will. We all make mistakes. We all, in a way, have energetic or karmic litter that as we're driving down the highway, we toss out the window, and we need to. And at some point, instead of just feeling guilty, like, oh man, I shouldn't have thrown that cup out the window, or I shouldn't have done da 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 da, we need to go back down that road and pick up all that stuff. We need to pick up those pieces and show that we are actually forgiving through that action and clean up that road a little bit. And I promise you that the gratitude that will come back to you and that will be expressed, and not just to you, but ultimately into the world, will have such a lasting effect and impact on the world, so much stronger than that the world will change from it. With each one of those letters, with each one of those texts, with each one of those messages that you actually gave with all of your heart, it will change the world. And that is the importance of a dream, of being able to realize how important dreams are, because they have the power to inspire action, to inspire change through seeing and visualizing a better way. There's always a better way. And so I hope you guys allow yourselves to go within yourself and just step out of that self-made prison and embrace your gifts, embrace the love that you are, and give that out. Give that to the ones who've given it to you. Give that to the ones who may have rescinded it and said that you weren't deserving of it. Give it to them anyways. Remind them that I don't need you to tell me, or I don't need you to love me for me to love you. And remind you that you are love, and remind you that I'll love you anyways, no matter what. It's unconditional. Remind them, and let's remind the world what unconditional love really is. And that starts with ourself. Thank you guys for tuning in with me today. This was a very unexpected, but very much so necessary episode. I love you guys.